At Father's Day dinner, my son Rocky raised his glass and said, "To the man who fed me, raised me, and showed me what I never want to be, a loser like him." The table erupted in laughter, and he put a letter on the table. "You are accepted to the nursing home." I raised my glass, looked him straight in the eye, and said, "To the son who thinks this is the end of my story." His smile disappeared. He did not know that I had one last step, and he was not ready for it. This betrayal ignited a fire in me that would destroy everything they had planned. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The clatter of silverware paused as Rocky stood, glass in hand, his face twisted into that familiar smirk I'd seen too many times growing up, half charm, half something sharper. The elegant Manhattan restaurant buzzed with Father's Day energy. Families toasting around us under crystal chandeliers that cast golden flecks on white tablecloths. Julia sat beside him, her manicured fingers drumming lightly on the stem of her wine glass, eyes flicking between us like she was calculating odds. A few cousins and an aunt rounded out the table, their smiles polite but expectant to the man who fed me, raised me, and showed me what I never want to be. A loser like him. Rocky's voice carried, laced with mock affection that didn't reach his eyes. Laughter erupted, sharp and uneven, my cousin shifting uncomfortably in her seat, while my aunt forced a chuckle, her napkin twisting in her lap. Julia nodded along, her lips curving in what she probably thought was supportive sympathy. I felt. The words land like a gut punch, heat rising in my chest, but I kept my expression steady. Years of boardroom negotiations, teaching me not to flinch first. The scent of seared steak and garlic butter, so inviting moments ago, now turned cloying in the thick air. Rocky wasn't done. He reached into his jacket pocket and slid a crisp envelope across the table toward me, the paper whispering against the cloth. "And because we care, Dad, we've taken care of everything. You're accepted to Silver Haven Prime Spot, assisted living with all the bells and whistles, deposits paid. It's time you relaxed." The brochure inside gleamed under the lights, glossy pages depicting smiling seniors in manicured gardens, playing cards in sunlit lounges. Words like compassionate care and secure environment jumped out. But I saw the subtext: incompetence, obsolescence. My hand closed around it, the edges cool and sharp, a fleeting tremor running through my fingers before I locked it down. Flashbacks flickered. Late nights reviewing Sean's college applications, selling off properties to cover his tuition after the divorce, left me scraping by. I'd rebuilt piece by piece, turning that modest real estate firm into something solid, all while he chased quick schemes that never panned out. "Why now?" I asked, my voice low but firm, flipping through the pages without looking up. The server hovered nearby, plates balanced, sensing the shift, but pretending not to. His interruption a brief mercy as he set down desserts no one touched. Rocky leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Come on, Dad, you're 65. That big house in the suburbs, it's too much. Falls happen, forgetting things. We're just looking out for you." Julia chimed in, her tone smooth as polished stone. "It's a beautiful place, Charles. You'd have company, activities, better than rattling around alone." Alone. The word stung, echoing the empty room since the divorce finalized a decade ago. But I caught it then, the quick glance between them, Sean's jaw tightening just a fraction. Julia's eyes narrowing like she'd spotted a flaw in a contract. My house wasn't just a home, it was prime real estate in a neighborhood exploding with value, the kind developers salivated over. They'd hinted at selling it before, couched in concern, but this was a shove. The laughter had died, the table silent now, except for the distant hum of other conversations. I raised my glass slowly, the wine catching the light, and met Sean's gaze head-on. His smirk faltered as I spoke to the son who thinks this is the end of my story. The clink echoed too loudly in the hush, a few glasses hesitantly joining mine. Sean's smile vanished, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty, Julia's hand freezing mid-reach for her napkin. I set the glass down with deliberate calm, pushed back my chair, and stood. The brochure stayed on the table, a discarded prop. "Enjoy the meal," I said, nodding to the group, my voice even. Sean's mouth opened, but I turned, weaving through the crowded dining room, the door's brass handle cool under my palm, as I pushed out into the bustling street. The restaurant door swung shut behind me, muffling Rocky's voice as he called out, "Dad, wait, let's talk this through. I didn't stop." The Manhattan sidewalk alive with evening crowds, taxis honking in the gridlock. A light rain had started misting the air and slicking the pavement, but it felt cleansing, washing away the stale tension inside. I hailed a cab sliding into the back seat, the leather creaking under me as I gave the driver Martha's address in Brooklyn. My phone buzzed in my pocket, Rocky no doubt, but I let it ring, staring out at the blurring lights as we pulled away. Relief surprised me, unexpected and sharp, like shedding a heavy coat. For years I'd bent backward for him, excusing the barb's stress from his middling job, his mounting debts from bad investments. But that toast, it crystallized everything. As the cab merged onto the bridge, the East River dark and churning below, I gripped the door handle, thoughts racing. I needed perspective, someone who saw through the facades. Martha had been that anchor since the divorce, her no-nonsense advice, pulling me through when Julia's lawyers had tried to strip me bare. The drive stretched, rain pattering harder on the roof, the wipers sweeping in rhythmic arcs. My phone vibrated again, twice more, voicemails piling up, but I silenced it, focusing on the glow of dashboard lights reflecting off wet streets. By the time we reached her brownstone, the neighborhood quiet under street lamps, my pulse had steadied into something purposeful. Martha opened the door before I knocked, her silver hair tied back, reading glasses perched on her nose like she'd been buried in files. "Charles, at this hour, come in." "You look like you've seen a ghost." Her living room welcomed me. Warm lamplight on overstuffed bookshelves crammed with legal, to the faint scent of chamomile tea lingering. I sank into the armchair, accepting the mug she pressed into my hands. Father's Day didn't go as planned. I recounted the lunch, the toasting, the brochure's insult. My words measured, but edged with the anger I'd held back. Martha listened, pacing slowly, her sharp eyes narrowing. "That sounds like more than concern," she said finally, stopping by the window where rain streaked the glass. "Sean's been in a hole financially. Julia's startup tanked last year, left them buried in loans. Your house could fetch a fortune now with the market booming." I nodded, the pieces clicking. They glanced at each other like accomplices. My phone lay silent on the coffee table, but the weight of ignored calls pressed on me. Martha crossed to her desk, rifling through a stack of mail. "This arrived yesterday, addressed to me, but I think it was meant for someone else. Maybe Rocky thought I'd back his play." She handed over an envelope postmarked from his office. Inside, a letter detailed the nursing home push, framing me as increasingly forgetful and at risk with a postscript. "Once he's settled, we can list the property, should cover the shortfall, and more." The words blurred for a moment, betrayal sinking deeper, but it fueled a cold clarity. "They assumed you'd convince me," I murmured, folding the paper carefully, my fingers steady now. Martha leaned against the desk, arms crossed. "They're underestimating you, Charles. Always have." Remember the divorce? You fought back then methodically. This is no different. Her words stirred resolve, the room's security wrapping around me like armor. But as I glanced at the clock, nearing midnight, suspicion solidified. This wasn't just greed. It was a plan with cracks I could exploit. I stood, thanking her, the letter tucked in my pocket like a weapon. The rain had eased as I stepped out, hailing another cab for home, the city lights promising more than shadows now. The bridge arched ahead as I gripped the wheel, the letter from Sean's office still folded in my pocket, its edges pressing against my thigh like a persistent reminder. The drive back from Brooklyn stretched into the early morning hours, the city skyline emerging through a haze of dawn light. Traffic thinning as commuters hadn't yet flooded the streets. Rain had given way to a misty fog, mirroring the swirl in my mind. How had years of quiet support twisted into this calculated shove? I pulled into my driveway in the suburbs just outside Manhattan, the familiar crunch of gravel under tires grounding me, though the house loomed larger now, a symbol of what they aimed to strip away. Unlocking the front door, I stepped into the quiet entryway, the air still carrying the faint scent of last night's coffee. Mail had piled up on the hall table during my absence, envelopes scattered like forgotten promises. I sifted through them, methodically bills and circulars giving way to a thicker packet from a local realtor firm. My fingers paused on the seal, a glossy logo that screamed opportunism. Tearing it open, I spread the contents across the kitchen counter, the papers fluttering slightly in the draft from an open window. Preliminary appraisal notes stared back, detailing square footage, recent comps in the neighborhood, and a projected value that made my stomach tighten, high enough to bail out anyone's sinking ship. Sean's name appeared in the client section with a note about preparing for swift listing post-relocation. Relocation. The word echoed the nursing home brochure, linking their plan in stark ink. I paced the kitchen, the counter's cool granite under my palms as I leaned in, scanning for dates. They had initiated this weeks ago before the lunch ambush. A quick memory surfaced, wiring funds for Sean's first business venture after college, his grateful calls back then now ringing hollow against this betrayal. The invasion fueled a steady burn, but I channeled it, reaching for my phone. Emily's number was speed dial, her voice picking up on the second ring. Sleepy but alert. Dad, everything okay? It's early. I recounted the lunch again, this time layering in Martha's letter and the fresh documents, my tone even but edged. They're not just pushing me out. They've got appraisers lined up. Eyes on the house like it's already theirs. Her response came sharp, a gasp cutting through. What? Rocky wouldn't? Wait, yes he would. That snake. Julia's probably pulling strings. She's always schemed behind smiles. I'm coming over. Give me an hour to throw on clothes and hit the road from Jersey. Don't rush, but yeah, I could use the backup. We talked longer, her questions probing. Had I noticed their debts mounting, hints from family gatherings where Julia dodged job talk? I admitted the signs I'd ignored, like Sean's vague pleas for loans last year, tied to her startup flop. They sank everything into some app that tanked. Millions in the hole from what I've pieced together. Emily's voice rose, indignant. That's no excuse to forge a path over you. I'll be there soon. We'll sort this. The call ended with her engine revving in the background, her outrage bowed to my isolation. I set the phone down, its screen lighting up with a misnification. Another from Rocky ignored. The morning sun filtered through curtains, casting long shadows on the papers, and I gathered them into a folder, steps toward countering their move. As I waited, brewing fresh coffee, thoughts turned strategic. Legal angles, protections I'd overlooked. The doorbell rang sooner than expected, pulling me to the hall. A firm knock echoed through the hall, pulling me from my thoughts as I straightened the folder on the counter. I opened the door to Emily, her face flushed from the drive, hair windswept and eyes fierce. She stepped in without preamble, wrapping me in a quick hug that eased the knot in my chest momentarily. Dad, show me everything. We're not letting them get away with this. We moved to the living room. Papers spread on the coffee table like a war map. Emily scanned them, her fingers tracing the appraisal figures. This is premeditated. We need expertise. Martha's the one, right? Your lawyer friend? I nodded, dialing Martha as Emily paced. She's sharp. Already saw through that letter. Martha agreed to meet downtown at a quiet cafe near her old office, neutral ground away from prying eyes. We grabbed our coats, the short drive into Manhattan, a bridge of shared silence, Emily gripping the passenger door handle as if bracing for impact. The cafe hummed softly, midday patrons murmuring over laptops, the aroma of fresh espresso clashing with the bitter edge of our purpose. Martha waited at a corner booth, her briefcase open, glasses perched low. Brought the originals? She asked, voice crisp and professional. We slid the documents across, Emily adding, and this power of attorney form? Rocky sent it last month, claiming it was just in case. Dad didn't sign it. Martha examined it under the booth's lamp, her finger tracing the signature line. The ink looked off, uneven pressure, where my name looped in a way I never wrote. This isn't yours, Charles. Forged poorly at that. Julia's handiwork. As a former lawyer, she'd know better. But desperation clouds judgment. Emily leaned in, voice urgent. Can we prove it? Nail them legally. Handwriting analysis. Timestamps? Yes, but we bill quietly. Martha's analysis flowed, pointing out discrepancies in dates linking to the appraisal. I absorbed it. The alliance solidifying like mortar. Recalling Frank's role in past deals where his financial savvy had saved my assets during the divorce, loyalty that now felt like a lifeline. My phone vibrated mid-discussion, screen flashing Frank's name. I answered, putting it on speaker. Charles, glad I caught you. Sean's been sniffing around your investment accounts. Called my office yesterday claiming power of attorney. I stalled him, but heads up. He's pushing hard. The words hung, escalating the air. Emily's eyes widened, Martha nodding knowingly. That's attempted fraud. We trap them with this. Frank continued, tone grave. Watch your back. Julia's name popped up in the inquiry too. Call if you need me to lock things down. Hanging up, the group huddled closer, ideas sparking, monitoring their moves, gathering more proof without alerting them. Momentum built, a united front against the greed. But, as a text from Rocky pinged, we need to talk, Dad. I sensed the web tightening, our plan just beginning to weave its response. With the cafe chatter fading behind us, I pulled out my phone to set the wheels in motion, the scattered notes from our huddle still fresh in my pocket, like blueprints for a long overdue reckoning. Emily squeezed my arm before heading back to Jersey, her parting words a quiet boost. Stay sharp, Dad. We're with you. Martha had already texted legal pointers on discreet recordings emphasizing state laws that allowed one-party consent in private homes. Back at my place, I adjusted the plan slightly, opting for a hidden voice recorder tucked into a sideboard drawer, its app synced to my phone for backup. The next evening arrived swiftly, my preparations complete, as I arranged plates on the dining table, the silverware gleaming under soft overhead lights that flickered once, as if sensing the undercurrent. I dialed Rocky, leaning against the counter, voice measured to mask the strategy. Son, let's talk about that nursing home idea. Dinner here tomorrow. Julia, too. We can hash out details. His pause stretched, then acceptance came guarded, laced with surprise. Really? Sure, Dad. We'll be there. 7 sound good. Julia's voice murmured in the background, approving. They arrived on time. Rocky handing over a bottle of red with forced warmth, his handshake firmer than usual. Julia followed, her smile polished, but eyes scanning the room like a praising inventory. We settled around the table, the recorder activated silently from my pocket app, its faint status light hidden in my lap. I poured wine, steering casual talk toward the brochure they'd left behind. Silver Haven looked solid. What made you pick it? Rocky relaxed into his chair, fork twirling pasta. It's top-rated, Dad. Safe, engaging, better than managing this place alone. Julia nodded, adding smoothly. And with the market hot transitioning could free up resources for everyone. I probed gently, passing the bread basket. Resources? You mean the house sale? The words hung a deliberate nudge. Julia sipped her wine, glass trembling slightly in her grip. Well, yes, once you're settled, listing it would cover costs. Maybe clear some obligations we've got hanging. Rocky's foot nudged hers under the table, but she continued, voice dropping. Our startup debts are crushing us. Loans from that app flop, the equity here, it would wipe the slate clean, give us breathing room. The admission landed like a dropped pin, captured in digital clarity. I nodded neutrally, mind racing to past family dinners where laughter flowed freely, now soured by this veiled confession, contrasting those memories. Debt's that bad, huh? Never mention the extent. Rocky shifted, deflecting. It's temporary. This is for your good too. No more worries. But Julia's eyes darted, realizing the slip, her napkin twisted in her lap. We finished the meal amid stilted chit-chat, my questions circling finances without pressing too hard. As they left, Rocky clapped my shoulder. Glad you're coming around, Dad. Julia echoed it, her hug brief and cool. Alone, I retrieved the device, replaying the audio in the dim kitchen. Julia's words echoing damningly, intent to sell, debts as motive. Triumph stirred, but so did a thread of sorrow for what family had become. The file saved securely. I pondered next steps, evidence mounting like stacked cards, ready to topple their house of lies. The city skyline shrank in the rear view as I headed toward answers from the past. The audio file backed up on a thumb drive in the glove compartment, its revelations still humming in my ears like a persistent echo. The drive to Kate's suburban home in Westchester took an hour, traffic easing as Manhattan's bustle gave way to tree-lined streets, giving me space to process the dinner's haul. Kate and I had parted amicably after the divorce, distance growing from shared regrets, but occasional holiday cards kept a thin thread intact. I pulled up to her modest colonial porch light, casting a welcoming glow that dimmed slightly in the evening mist. She opened the door before I knocked, her face softening in surprise, silver streaks in her hair catching the light. Charles, this is unexpected. Come in, T. We settled in her cozy kitchen, mugs steaming on the oak table. An old family photo on the fridge drawing my eye. A younger us with Rocky grinning toothily. A motif of happier times now tinged with irony. I eased into the reason, mentioning the Father's Day stunt without full details. Rocky pushing hard for changes. Got me wondering about patterns from before. Kate stirred her tea slowly, spoon clinking against porcelain. Patterns? Like the money he borrowed a few years back. Said it was for a charity drive at work, helping kids or something. I gave him 10 grand. No questions. Her admission hung, prompting me to lean forward. And it wasn't. She rose, fetching a folder from a drawer. Edges yellowed like forgotten secrets. Emails here. Check scanned. Turns out it funded a Vegas trip with Julia, extravagant from what I pieced later. He apologized vaguely, but the lie stuck. She slid it across, documents unfolding to reveal wire transfers, messages promising repayment that never came. I leapt through inconsistencies glaring, dates overlapping their startup launch, excuses thin as the paper. A flashback surfaced. Kate and I during the divorce, sharing quiet coffees where she vowed to shield Rocky from our fallout. Her openness now a bridge from that empathy. Why keep this? Her voice softened, regretful. Hoped he'd change. But if it's hurting you now, use it. He's my son, but fairness matters. We talked longer, her insights layering onto the recording, patterns of deceit stretching back. A tear glistened in her eye as she admitted, I enabled it too long, thinking it was just youth. I patted her hand, assuring no blame, the exchange sealing more proof in my arsenal. Driving back, folders secured beside the drive. My phone buzzed with a message from Rocky. Heard you visited Mom. Everything all right? Awareness prickled, urgency building as I gripped the wheel tighter, legal gears needing to shift into high. The suburbs faded behind as Kate's folder rustled beside me, urging bolder steps amid the hum of the highway back toward Brooklyn, where Martha's steady counsel awaited. The drive blurred with thoughts of Sean's text, his probing, all right, a veiled probe that hinted at nerves fraying. I pulled into her driveway as dusk settled, The documents clutched like ammunition, explaining the visit briefly over her threshold. Kate's proof seals the pattern. Now we fortify. Inside, Emily had already arrived, her laptop open on the dining table, introducing her contact, a forensic handwriting specialist named Lena, slim glasses, framing intent eyes. Lena's the best. Owes me from a case last year. We laid out the power of attorney form, its falsified mark glaring under a portable lamp. Lena unpacked from her kit. She adjusted the loop, magnifying the loops and pressures. See the hesitation in the downstroke? Your samples flow evenly. This one's traced. Inconsistent ink density. Her breakdown was clinical pointer tracing each floor as Emily nodded, jotting notes. Definite fabrication. Court-ready affidavit by morning. Martha pacing with coffee in hand. Absorb this while outlining the suit. Fraud, elder exploitation. We tie in the recording. Kate docs. This forgery. I'll draft the complaint tonight. File discreetly tomorrow. Her voice carried precision, a blueprint unfolding as I dialed Frank on an encrypted app, his face pixelating briefly on screen. Charles, walk me through the assets. I detailed accounts, properties, the recall surfacing, post-divorce grind, late deals and empty lots that built my portfolio from scraps. Now, vulnerable treasures to shield. Frank navigated transfers remotely. Funds shifting to irrevocable trusts, keystrokes echoing my directives. Locked down offshore if push comes, but stateside access preserved. They'll hit walls. A day of orchestrated moves later, we paused for breath. Lena packing her tools as Emily squeezed my shoulder. We're armored now, but urgency tugged. I headed home to grab essentials. The suburban streets quiet under street lights. At the door, key and lock. It resisted, turned again. Nothing. Heart quickening, I tried the back entrance. Same stubborn refusal. A neighbor's porch light flicked on. Mrs. Harland peering out. Charles, Sean's crew was here earlier. Locksmith utility van, said maintenance, but lights are off inside. Her whisper carried over the fence. Flashlight beam dancing on my face. Shock rippled, but resolve hardened. I dialed Martha mid-retreat, engine revving as I sped away. Sean's escalation, a blatant shove that only sharpened our edge. The neighbor's words lingered as I settled into temporary quarters at a discreet hotel near Brooklyn, vigilance sharpening with each unchecked shadow in the lobby mirror. Utilities cut, locks swapped, a crude siege to force my hand, but I'd anticipate aggression. Phone silent for now, I reviewed transfers on my tablet. Balances secure in New Havens while texting Emily. Safe. Accelerate filings. Morning brought a knock. Uniformed officers, badges glinting under hallway fluorescents. Mr. Torres, report filed. Your son claims you're missing, possibly disoriented. Their questions probed gently, notebooks poised. I met their gaze steadily. I'm fine, officers. Just a family misunderstanding. Relocated temporarily for peace. They noted it, departing with assurances of follow-up. The reports print out. They left a stark artifact of Sean's desperation. Back in the room, I crafted a message to him. Aware of the report, safe on my terms, actions noted, sent the words a measured jab. Phone screen blinking confirmation before going dark again. Emily arrived soon after. Folders underarm. Police tipped us. Rocky's portraying you as unstable to justify control. Martha's incorporating it into the suit. Paints his motive clearer. We huddled over breakfast remnants, a rallying tone firm. This backfires on him. We're ready for court push. Martha conferenced in, voice crackling over speaker. Complaint refined. Emergency hearing request for injunction against further interference. Evidence chain unbreakable. Mid-discussion. Frank's call interrupted, his tone urgent. Dug deeper on those stocks. Julia's fingerprints all over. Forged transfer docs moved shares to her shell company last week. Alerts buried, but I traced the trail. The revelation struck like a jolt. Screen notifications cascading as he shared screenshots. Transfers dated post-lunch. Her name embedded in digital ledgers. Reflection hit. The stable life I'd carved. Boardrooms and late nights now piloted in shadows that demanded reclamation. Emily's eyes flashed. That's theft outright, adds charges. We mapped countermeasures, Martha adjusting filings on the fly. The room's quiet, broken only by keyboard taps mirroring my building fury. As evening fell, stock proofs integrated. The hearing loomed closer, a courtroom stage set for unraveling their web. The courthouse doors loomed as we stepped inside, the weight of gathered proofs steadying my stride through bustling corridors, lined with echoing footsteps and murmured consultations. Emily flanked my left, her hand brushing my arm in silent solidarity, while Martha led with briefcase and toe, her heels clicking purposefully on marble floors. The courtroom awaited beyond heavy oak panels, air thick with polished wood scents, and the low hum of fluorescent lights overhead. We took our seats at the plaintiff's table, the binder of evidence, forged docs, recordings, stock trails, resting like a sentinel before me. The judge entered, robe swishing, gavel rapping order. As proceedings commenced, Martha rose first, voice commanding yet precise. Your Honour, we present irrefutable evidence of fraud and exploitation, a falsified power of attorney, illicit stock transfers, and recorded admissions of intent to seize assets. She submitted the packet, projector whirring to life, illuminating the forgery's magnified inconsistencies on screen. Rocky and Julia sat opposite, their lawyer interjecting smoothly. Objection. Relevance. Mr. Torres's age suggests diminished capacity. Family acted in his best interest. But Martha countered, playing dinner audio snippets. Julia's voice crackling through speakers. The equity here. It had wiped the slate clean. Silence fell. Sean's face tightened, whispering urgently to Julia, whose composed mask slipped, fingers drumming the table edge. The judge leaned forward, brow furrowed. Counsel, call the notary. A middle-aged woman shuffled to the stand, oath administered amid the room's hush. Martha probed. You witnessed this signature despite discrepancies. The notary hesitated, papers rustling in her grasp. I trusted the presenter. Julia Torres handled it. Julia's eyes narrowed, a murmur rippling from spectators as the judge pressed. Complicity in forgery carries penalties. Explain the oversight. The woman's shuffle grew uneasy, admissions tumbling. Rushed process overlooked red flags undermining their defense layer by layer. As cross-examination peaked, I sat observant, a quick thought flashing to early career closings in stuffy offices. Deals sealed with unyielding focus that belied any notion of frailty now hurled at me. The accusations echoed hollow against the mounting proofs, tension coiling like a spring. After a short break, cross-examination resumed, but cracks widened. Sean's deflective claims faltering under scrutiny, Julia's facade fracturing with each evidentiary thrust. The judge adjourned briefly, Gavel's shadow lingering on the bench, calling for my testimony, next amid unresolved barbs. The recess ended with a sharp bang, calling me to the stand where truths awaited. The gavel's echo fading as I rose, steadying against the rail's cool wood. Oath taken, voice firm, I began under Martha's guidance. I've managed my finances independently for decades. Real estate ventures rebuilt post-divorce, yielding stable returns. She prompted details and I unveiled records, portfolios diversified, yields consistent, far from the incompetence they painted. A memories stirred, nights poring over ledgers after the split, forging self-reliance that now armored me. The judge clarified, and these safeguards? Preemptive, Your Honour. Assets shifted to trusts. The house deeded to my daughter Emily weeks ago, irrevocable. Papers passed forward, crisp edges slicing the air, Emily's gaze meeting mine with quiet pride across the room. Sean's murmur rose, reactive. That's evasion proves instability. But I continued, tone measured. Hidden savings they overlooked. Offshore accounts, from legitimate sales, untouched by their schemes. Tension mounted as I pivoted to the proposal, words deliberate. I offer conditional resolution. Confess the fraud, repay stolen funds, or face criminal escalation. Justice not ruin, but accountability. The courtroom stirred, Sean's flinch visible, Julia's hands clenching as the judge paused thoughtfully. Questions followed swiftly, my responses unveiling more, stock trails reversed preliminarily, their grip loosening, internal surge built, empowerment cresting, like a wave held back too long. As reactions simmered, Emily nodding subtly, antagonists shifting uneasily, the judge weighed the offer, rulings poised on the horizon. The courtroom stilled as the judge cleared their throat, the echo of my words still lingering in the charged air, Sean's gaze darting sideways to Julia, her lips pressed into a thin line of barely contained defiance. We resumed seats, the bench's polished surface reflecting the overhead lights that cast elongated shadows across the floor. Emily squeezed my hand under the table, a silent anchor, while Martha arranged her notes with deliberate calm. The judge scanned the submitted files once more, voice resonant and impartial. After reviewing the evidence, forged documents, unauthorized transfers, and recorded intents, I find the defendant's actions constitute fraud and exploitation. The power of attorney is hereby nullified, asset seizures prohibited, and the matter referred to the district attorney for criminal review. A murmur swept the room, Sean's shoulders slumping as if the words carried physical weight, Julia's hands clenching the table edge until her knuckles widened. The gavel thudded finality, sealing the verdict. Prosecutors nodded from the sidelines, signaling escalation while a clerk shuffled papers, notifying Julia of pending ethics board inquiries that could strip her license. Moments after the gavel, we gathered outside in a hushed hallway, fluorescent buzz overhead, contrasting the inner storm. Rocky approached hesitantly, Julia trailing but stopping short, arms crossed in isolation, his voice cracked, low and urgent.
"Dad, I messed up.
The debts blinded me, Julia pushed, but it was my call.
Please, no charges. I'll fix it."
I met his eyes, the plea, stirring a brief thought of past leniencies, overlooked loans, excused missteps in his youth, now hardened by the betrayal's cost. Confession noted, but terms stand, repay every cent, counseling mandatory, and distance from influences that fueled this. Julia interjected curtly, voice edged with denial.
"This is absurd. I acted for family stability. No blame here."
She turned sharply, heels echoing as she exited alone, doors swinging shut behind her like a severed tie. Rocky nodded tearfully, breakdown etching lines on his face as he whispered agreements, the hallway emptying around us. Emily pulled me aside for a quick huddle, her pride evident, but tension simmered, tentative acceptance hanging fragile, future shifts whispering on the horizon. Half a year slipped by, the house alive again with familiar footsteps as I unlocked the front door each morning. Sunlight filtering through curtains I'd drawn open to welcome the day. Those months brought steady change, therapy sessions marking Sean's progress via monthly check-ins, his non-profit venture aiding debt-strapped families, a quiet atonement that rebuilt fragile bridges. Emily managed the trust seamlessly, her visits frequent, grandchildren's laughter echoing in the yard where toys now scattered freely. One afternoon I reviewed charity documents at the kitchen table, allocating savings to an elder advocacy fund, legal aid for those facing similar exploitations, a legacy born from the ordeal. The phone buzzed with Rocky's update, voice tentative, but earnest counseling's helping Dad. Started volunteering more.
"Feels right."
Emily arrived later with the kids, bags of groceries for dinner. Her affectionate tease light. "House looks good. Trust holding strong. Proud of you holding firm." We prepped together, chopping vegetables amid shared stories. The spread inviting with steaming dishes and fresh bread. As evening light warmed the room, we gathered around the table, Rocky joining cautiously, his reform evident in subdued demeanor. Grandkids chattered, easing the air until I raised my glass. Words measured yet warm to fresh pass. Lessons learned, bonds mended. Sean's response came soft, grateful. "Thanks for the chance changing daily." Emily chimed in warmly.
"Family's tougher now."
The toast resonated, clinks mingling with laughter, the betrayal's shadow fading into a catalyst for renewal. Personal strength deepened. relationships re-evaluated in the quiet glow of an open window ushering in the breeze. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.